Praise be to Mary, dear young. At the very beginning, all of those you are present, those who are looking through the media, I would like to ask you for a moment of silence. Before I speak, I need to be silent. And truly my experience of life is such that in silence, the most true encounter with the Lord and the most true prayer takes place. We have heard much these days how here on the program and among ourselves, there are many meetings, big crowds, but it's truly very essential to be able to pause in silence. Today, these days, and when you come home to your own place, we are aware that God is here, is alive, present. Let us now open our hearts to Him, that we may be humble listeners, that the Holy Spirit may speak to everyone, that every spoken word would give glory only to Him. Because truly speaking about me and my life, I would not speak about myself, but about Him. So for a moment, let's close our eyes and let's try to strive to be in silence. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Queen of Peace. My name as a religious sister to Dijana Maria of the Wounded Heart of Jesus. And my baptismal name is Dijana Mlinarić, and I am member of the Carmelites of the Society of the Search of the Heart of Jesus. It's a contemplated association that was inspired by Saint Teresa of Avila and want to live Carmelite spirituality outside of the cloud, outside of the convent, with the work with the most needy. It's actively clear, but what does contemplative mean? As it's difficult to pronounce, it is also difficult to understand, as it is such a profound reality that has at the very essence and source of vocation. The first is prayer. And what is in my heart to repeat, you heard at the beginning of the Youth Festival, how in 2024 the Church is in great preparation of the Jubilee, proclaimed as the Year of Prayer. Dear youth, all the world, and also us in Medjugorje, are called to prayer. We're called to immerse in prayer. And what does that mean to me as a religious? Means to be the most important, to be with Christ, to follow Him, to be His extension that praised an example of the Blessed Virgin Mary, essential for my life and my call. From this profound experience that I had, touched by Jesus, I responded to His call and I desire to live this. And that relationship, that being with Him, is the fundamental source of everything for me. It's important to set out a time only for Him, for the meeting that gives life, but to be in His presence in everything that you do, wherever you are, not to separate from Him. It is a fact that when you meet Christ, you are so joyful, you want to share that with others. That is beautiful, because He really desires to come to all of His children, to everyone. He desires to touch others also through you. And that is why to be active is important. And every religious, whether they're living in an enclosure in hidden prayer. Every monk, every hermit, and every Christian has to care about the salvation of souls. That is most important, very important. That is why the Lord raises those in communities whom He gives special charisms to be able to have the express care for His souls in the church. That is why the young come to me oftentimes and they say, I don't know where to go. God is so wildly creative. He has so many different kinds of religious communities. You simply have to ask Him, and He will show you where you can realize yourself the best as a person. I have chosen the Carmel of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. The Lord brought me there. The Carmel in the broader sense of the word. And there I refer to brother Carmelites, whom I greet with all my heart. Some are here, sisters who live in enclosure, and us, the Carmelites of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We have a very important mission, and that is to pray for the church and the priests. Not only pray, dear young, but also to be able to offer the small and great sacrifices for everything that is difficult, everything that is sinful, and truly that is present so much. We can hear much more about what is bad than what is good. And when you ask yourself what to do, I believe, but I also see and I know that that prayer and that satisfaction is so powerful, so powerful. And dear young, let us be those who pray, who bless, who contribute to the community of the unity of the church. Today there is so much division. We know who divides us. Let us be the ones who build the unity. Our community, the Carmel of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, we desire to be close to the souls in their difficulties, to care for the souls through the preparation of the sacraments, through the education of the youth and the children. Our monasteries try to be prayers and oases of meeting with God, especially in our hearts, of those who are the most threatened and endangered. That is why we also have homes for the elderly, for the helpless, and for children who do not have proper care. And our Saint Teresa of Saint Joseph left in our heritage not to be some kind of teachers or educators, but primarily that we may be mothers. Every soul that the soul sends to us, to encounter every soul that God gives us as a mother. At the beginning, I mentioned to you that I have two names. Sister Maria Dijana of the Wounded Heart of Jesus. During the time of formation, there's a tradition or rule that every girl who is in formation decides on her our name and last name, that name, the title that she chooses. That is a reflection of the reality that is essential for her in her spiritual life. So I have chosen the name Maria, and I have placed her in the first place. As I am Diana, I placed Maria in the first place. I'm Maria Diana. In this way, I desire to recommend and commend my religious life to her, that she may be my teacher and my mother, because I truly love Mary. She's so important to me and present in my life, and I would like to say some more about this. And this part of the Wounded Heart of Jesus, it came completely unplanned. When I was preparing myself in novitiate, when you think about the vocation, it's not just a matter of, knocking on the monastery door and they dress you in a habit. You have to pass through a time to see if this is your way. There has to be time of discernment. In the time of discernment, I became very sick. When I didn't know whether I was going to live or die, for me, it was a very challenging experience that marked my entire life. In it, inside and outside, I experienced a great love of the heart of Jesus. These days, as never before, I was touched by his wounds. Why am I saying this? Because I was in the midst of my sickness. I had certain bacteria that could not be discovered. They could not give me right therapy. And I was full of wounds. It was like Job. And then one day, and I see everywhere the cross. I see the cross in the church. I see the cross in my hand. I went to a chapel and I looked at this cross. It's as if I've encountered for the first time in my life. And that moment of grace was there, and I came to realize that his wounds, even though they were hurting, bring life and healing. It's as if I discovered America, as I said. So from my simple human outlook on the cross, my own outlook was never the same again. I especially was touched by the wound of the heart of Jesus, which permits all of us to be near him, to accept him. The one who always waits for us, never tires of waiting for us, and also wounded by my sin. And from that day, in the wound of his heart is all of my joy, my love, my health, my healing, and the great, great desire that each time I knew, even though I myself am wounded in certain situations, can love with his love and forgive with his love, even if it seems impossible. That is why this, my last name, reminds me of this grace. And here in this place, that is our thank you, Lord, for the great, great grace, for your touch, and for the fact that you have healed me through the experience of my sickness. And in the sea of bad information about priests and the church, I desire to personally witness the experience of my deep and profound nearness of my sisters. So in these 17 years in the monastery, the same. And in this way, I desire to greet all my beloved, dear sisters, especially those who are present here, because they came to give me support. But those also with whom I live, and all of my sisters in Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, in the world. After 17 years without idealizing, I can say that I see the beauty of the life with God in religious life. There were also difficult moments, situations. But I personally see and know that it is then that I matured the most, and that then God did the most in me. Once a young person asked me, "Sister, can you share with me what is the most essential that you have come to know, and what it touched you the most in your life with God?" She was waiting for a very intelligent answer, and I was perspiring. I said, I would like to really answer that a little later, and I stood before the Lord seriously and thought about that, and then I found my answer, and I desire to also ask all of you here. That answer encompasses all of the events of my life and situations, and the answer is, that is the fact that before I sought God, He sought me. We are all looking for God, but let's not forget that He is looking for us before we're looking for Him. And when I came to know that experience, that He is the great God who's looking for me, small, sinful, that moved me to tears and even moves me today to the very bone and means so much to me. I'd like to say something briefly about my childhood. I was born in Zagreb, Croatia. When we hear the witness of the consecrated people, and we hear about they come from traditional Catholic families, and thanks God for that, because family is very important in the growth of the person. But everything is possible to God, even to call someone who did not even grow up in faith, whose family situation was not classical. It is possible for him to turn everything to good, even when we think with our human reasoning that there's no chance. I do not look for that proof elsewhere, because I see that in my own life, in my own skin. My mother and father fell in love young, and at 19 years old, my mom was pregnant, and in her womb, was there, I was there. Overnight, the careless youth became complicated. She was subjected to much pressure, who saw the only solution for her to abort me. The parents rejected her. My father, in his weakness, left her. And my mom, my hero, nonetheless decided to give me birth and risk everything.
And
so many times she has repeated to me, and because you have to ask permission, Mom, can I mention you? She says, my child, just remember that you're a child of love. And it's there to say to all of you, as a mother, as a spiritual mother, regardless of the circumstances in which you are born, in which you live or lived, you are beloved child of God. You are a beloved child of God. Whether you feel this or not, whether you know this or not, you truly are a beloved child of God. Several years after my birth, my mom got married to another man, gave birth to another two children, my brother and sister. Today they are beautiful people, a family. They are beautiful husband and wife. They're open to life. My brother has two children. My sister on Tuesday gave birth to the fourth, and my nieces and nephews, are my great joy. And when you look at the beginning, doesn't seem like bright future and end. But what I can see in my family is such a blessing, and I can see how God turned everything to the good. So if today you're living a situation that is difficult, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that in the future. Because of all of that experience, in a special way, the apostle for life and the prayer for the unborn is in my heart, and to care for every woman who is pregnant, and to defend the dignity of every person. That touches me very profoundly. Because when you speak about the apostles for life, it's different when you pass through some of the things personally. Why am I saying this to you? Only because of two reasons. First of all, God truly loves every person. Doesn't matter what wound you have, no matter how much sinfulness you live, how much others reject you. Our Father, our Daddy, full of mercy, waits for you with open arms. Maybe it seems to you that perhaps you cannot live, that God is tearing you apart. It is there that He can heal you and make you new. And you, like I am today, you can also be grateful. I've thought a lot about what to speak to you, and I gave up on saying, do this, don't do that, be careful, this or that. I don't like to say that. I prefer to have the enthusiasm for the good rather than speak about negative. But I would like to share with you something that helped me, and that I think that it saved me in many situations. That is a question that somehow I've been posing to myself from my youth. That is, how much and in what way do I seek to please God? Please God in this or that situation or choice. Not men, but God. And this is the filter for my decisions in life. Because they are young, in contrast to people, God has never rejected me. He never forced me. He always gave me freedom
A meni to stvarno znači
and
imati neko
and love. And that really means a lot to me, to have someone
ono do krvi
that you know that he loves you to the very bloodshed and does not reject you like you sometimes reject or betray him.
odrasla u Zagrebu, kao što rekao,
I grew up in Zagreb, in Treševka Jarun.
Trešnjici živjela je moja mama,
It is there that my mom also lived
novom obitelji, znači ona
with a new family. She got married, gave birth to 2 other children.
ja pojma nisam imala tko je Bog, što je
Even though I didn't know who God was, what the church was, didn't live in faith, I was baptized
beba i to
when I was a baby
Svetog Josipa,
in the Church of St. Joseph.
sa usjećem Svetog Josipa
And somehow I really feel close to St. Joseph even today.
od početka svoga djetinjstva, mladosti.
From the beginning of my childhood and youth, I was a very lively child, and I grew up like all of my contemporaries.
Puno sam vremena provela s bakom i djedom,
And so I spent a lot of time with my grandma and grandpa, who extended their love and acceptance to me, their care, unselfish care of helping everyone. But God was never mentioned, never.
i baka i djed su živjeli u nas,
And Grandpa and Grandpa lived in Jarun,
njena mala crkvica,
and then there is a little tiny church of the Holy Spirit
moj prvi susret
where my first meeting with God took place. In the parish, afterwards, the Holy Mother of Freedom was built, a sanctuary
sagrađeno u spomenik
that is built
za sve naše
in memory of all of our Croatian defenders, veterans.
dan evo
And today, on the 5th of August, Our Lady of the Snows in Croatia, it is our gratitude for our country of freedom, for all of our defenders. And I'm from my heart grateful to all the defenders who have given their life for our freedom. I thank them from my heart.
Ja sam odrasla u ambijentu
I grew up
koji je njegovao sjećanje i
in
zahvalnost.
an ambient
I mnogi iz moje familije su bili branitelji.
that had great compassion for such people. Many of my own family were
Gospodin me spasio i
also veterans.
zahvaljujući mojoj župi,
And I can say that
svetancima koji tamo
that
djeluju,
God the Lord has saved me through my parish and the Salesians who work there, and all those who influenced us, the children who gathered us together, who saved us from the street and bad influence.
susret s Bogom i
My first encounter with God and church was completely unusual. I was 8 years old,
i jednu subotu smo se mi
and on a Saturday we, the children, were riding on a bicycle,
malo otišli predaleko, znači
but we went a little bit too far. I remember when you say to children, don't go there,
da je se to kad vama desi.
but they don't listen. I don't know if that ever happened to you.
Jednu veliku kuću,
And we came across a very big house where there were song that was heard.
što se unutra zbiva.
No one knew what was happening in there,
Tu je bila prva priča.
but there was the first communion,
Silno htjela ući unutra.
and I really wanted to enter in to see what's happening.
Bila mala,
But because I was little, I couldn't see anything because of these big adults,
od vožnje bicikla prljava,
and I dirty from riding a bicycle. I pushed among all these well-dressed parents, grandparents, to the Holy Communion, and I came across one of my neighbors who said, "Do you want me to lift you up so you can see?" As if he gave me everything at that moment. I will never forget that moment when he lifted me up in his arms. It was the beginning of the First Communion, when the children in the white sang, and when they received Jesus for the first time into their hearts. Now imagine, I was a child that never heard about God, that never went to church, who just wandered into the church and came at the moment
kad je 100 djece primalo Isu.
when 100 children were receiving God, Jesus into their heart, were so pure, beautiful. I can't describe how deep that moment was for me.
Ja sam ono kad to završila, ja sam rekla ja bi
And when I finished, I said, I want also the same thing.
s njima.
I want to be like these children. Oh, I want to go after them right away.
Moj susjed kaže,
And my neighbor said, no. Go to that auntie over there. She was a nun. I didn't know what a nun was.
ja dođem čast,
I came to the nun
evo ja bi to
and I said, I would also go with the other children.
me ono, vidjela ona koliko je sati,
I saw what time it was.
nema pojma i kaže, ajde
The child doesn't know anything. She says, oh, my sunshine, come to me another day and I'll explain everything to you.
krenula na vjeronauk i
And so I started the catechism. I didn't even know what that was.
nisam znala ništa.
I didn't know anything, absolutely anything. and everything started. Into childhood and youth, nobody forbade me from going to church, but nobody inspired me. There were times when I went to church, but much more when I didn't. But whenever I would return, I felt welcomed and accepted. And truly, because I was very open, happy, communicative,
Imala sam, ne znam, društvo u razredu, društvo u kvartu.
I had different friends in different places, and I understood already as a child that I felt the best in the parish because there's no swearing, there's no ridicule, and we were all trying to be better. And I must admit that I really liked their table tennis.
Župa je sve više postajala moj drugi dom.
The parish more and more became a second home.
Stvarno, evo, tu sam rasla cjelovito.
And there I grew. As a young woman, I had good company. I was an animator. I was able to discover my gifts. I received the foundation of faith, healthy religion. And what happened to me, that others saw something good in me that I didn't see at all. The others believed in me, but I didn't believe in myself. They prayed for me. I had friends who prayed for me, and that meant nothing to me. I didn't understand that at all. I was not aware of what a gift it is to have a friend who prays for you. And these friends became and remained friends for my life. Like Father Zvone said, friend in God remains a friend, because only in God can you find a true friend. This is why, truly, young people, I desire to inspire you. Include yourself in some kind of movement in the church, that where you'll grow as a person, you'll find good, real friends, and your faith will be tested whether it's authentic or not. As a young woman, I had my own wanderings and seeking. When I was 15 years old, my grandmother died. She was very important to me, and that shook me very much, because very profound questions about life and meaning came up, and the time in my high school was the most difficult moment of my life, completely confused. I wanted to run out of my own skin. On the one side, I drew back. The other side, I was going out with company, and even though I liked that for a moment, it left a great emptiness in me. I was really confused. And somehow I asked of God and of people to explain to me why are certain things happening in my life that happened. And I was angry that things were not happening the way I was expecting and wanted. And that's not how it goes. It's not what I want and how I want. Some things you can avoid or rush. You can't run away from them. You have to go through them. But God was always patiently with me and waited. Even at the moment when I was angry, when I was wandering, He listened and listened. And He never paid me back in the same manner that I gave to Him. Like I said, if somebody said something like that to me, what would I do? But today I know many things were in the affections, and I see that God saw behind my words. That is why I also inspire you and move you. Do not just remain at the surface of the words. Look at who is speaking to you, why they're speaking to you, what is it they're meaning to say to you with the words that they're saying. Because I believe that God saw my confusion, and even today He sees that, and all of the weight from which the words came from. And today I can give thanks that in this moment, every moment, even in the bad experiences that I was exposed to, I was safe. I finished high school. I wanted to study English and Italian. I wanted to translate books, not like these guides. But because I didn't end up in that direction, for me that was the end of the world. At the time, sometimes when something doesn't happen the way you think that has to be, a person still survives and goes on. Then I signed up to the catechesis, and that for me was a temporary solution until I decided what I would do in life. But as time going on, more and more I like to see this approach to faith based on reason and knowledge. And today I see, my dear youth, this is still not enough. You can study theology and not be a believer. In the same way, you can be devout and spiritual, but go into the wrong direction. That is one and the other is important, but also the third thing is important. You have to have true and correct teaching. You have to have healthy and authentic spirituality and life. And the third thing, it's important to be a part of a community, the church, a part of the community, not a mass, but a community. These three things were fundamental if you truly desire to grow authentically and healthy. In a period of my studies, I was sitting on two chairs. On one side, in intellectual parts, but then I was a little more active in church. But I did not experience a deep encounter with Christ, like some of my friends were telling me at my university. And these authentic experiences of my friends also revealed to me that I had the desire for this. That's why witnessing is important. I also longed for this living experience of God who is in me. I used to be enthused about their witness, but at the same time, they encouraged me to become better. The most marked meeting that I was at, youth meeting in Rome with 2000, there were 2 million people, and I didn't go there because of deep spiritual motives, but my primary desire was to see Rome. And I see, like today, this encounter with John Paul II out of my youth, the confession that I decided to go to after a long time, and the priest who led this pilgrimage and was so patient with us. There were a few of us that were not so comfortable, but he didn't give up on us, and I was touched by that. And oftentimes when I gather the youth, and they also tease me, you're leading everybody. But when I remember how I was led, how God touched me, I believe that God truly can touch every single person. And in such meetings, you cannot remain indifferent to the joy. You cannot remain indifferent to the grace. It's a matter of being with others. I believe that no one is ever at any meeting with God accidentally, even if it seems that they are there by accident. God can turn all this for the good of the soul. After we returned back to Rome, we never spoke about the buildings that we want to see. We spoke about the experience imbued by God that ignited our young hearts so much that we weren't even aware. What am I trying to say to you by this? That time is there for everything. Somebody comes for a pilgrimage because of the group, because of the friends, because of the atmosphere, and we need such healthy meetings in God. We are gathered like here at the Youth Festival. The church must be open and patient, and the home that accepts everyone. And we do not all feel this deep longing for God at the same time, in the same way. But I believe that everyone has their own way, their own time, and we have to respect this. But at the same time, very important, dear youth, and all of you who are listening here, I ask you, please don't remain superficial. Jesus is calling and desires to profoundly meet each one of you. And to meet Him is to meet yourself and your beauty, but also your poverty, and to give Him everything. And I desire to also encourage you to step, because He changes you completely. He transforms your life. And in 2002, in a spiritual renewal, I finally experienced this deep experience with God that I longed for so much. And this is where my true conversion set out and my life in a different way. I said to you earlier, especially the apostle for life is in my heart, but my true and first love of the, as far as apostle is concerned, is you, the young people. Right from my time of my student life, I was the person who was the animator with the youth and children. Some were too silent, frightened, some were too noisy, arrogant, disordered, but God gave me a great love that was not difficult for me to approach anyone, not the great or the small, the one who participated and the one who opposed. Because I myself went through the path and was accepted by others, passing through things. I knew that certainly there is some kind of a situation because of which the young person was reacting in such a way. And before and after the conversion, even today, a desire was born with me is to do everything I can for the salvation of souls. And I'm really happy for every single person, young person who's come to church, to any one of our meetings, whether with entertainment or desires or just wandered in lost, like I did. And the Lord has led me in such a way all these years before entering the monastery in the service of children and youth. I'd like to say briefly, we as the young animators in our parish understood how important it is to be activated and to put oneself in a service, to do something for the youth. And dreaming this, we've understood how that service of being an animator also built us. And we also came to understand that we share this with others. Some things you cannot explain. When you come back to Medjugorje, you cannot describe in theory what you experienced. It is important to experience it, and that experience we desire to truly transmit to others. And we dreamt of this. Remember when you are young and all of a sudden a dream is realized to you. A group of us animators, we were young, we were students. We made a program of the formation of animators that helped us in our work with the youth and the children. And then that meeting is spread throughout Croatia. And sometimes when we meet, you can't even believe what you were enthusiastic about, what you spoke about at coffee, that you passed through. You are living now in Dubrovnik, in Split, in Bosnia, and that has spread and help others. It doesn't even matter. It is us. But we know that it's not us, but it's God who started this with us. That is why, dear young, God works. I also had the opportunity of seeing much good. I had a time before the monastery to meet many priests and lay people who in their heart have the children and youth. And seeing so much good, I understood that I thought that the young are negative, that everything is bad, that the world is going the wrong way. I understood that for me personally, that was a big deceit, big lie. I understood that oftentimes the media tried to portray the wrong picture. I understood that there was much more good than bad, even though the bad is louder. And that filled my heart with such joy that I can't even describe it. Because of concrete life experience, anybody can write whatever they want. They can throw mud against the church anything they want. They can speak all the negative things against you, the young. They can say that everything is lost, that nothing is good, that there is no hope. But I know this is not true. I know this is not a reality. And oftentimes, as Blessed Aloysius Stepinac said, in vain do you have all the radios and all of the printing press You will never overcome our hearts. You will never rule our hearts. Never allow anyone to rule your heart except Jesus Christ.
Završavala sam faks.
I finished my university. I was active in the church,
Ali s obzirom na životni poziv nisam imala jasnoću.
but I didn't have any clarity about life's vocation. I had some image about family and marriage until in one of the confessions the priest said, if I ever thought about a religious vocation.
Ošinulo me to poput munje i rekla sam jao, samo to ne.
I was like struck by lightning. I said no. I really liked my nuns from the parish,
Časne s faksa, ali
the nuns from the university,
ta jedna borba u meni,
but the fight in me, that fear,
to je trajalo godinama.
lasted for years.
Zapravo to sve nekako riješilo je bilo opravo.
And then everything would be resolved here in 2007 in Medjugorje. I was invited to a pilgrimage.
Iz mojeg reda
One of the nuns from my order, who led a group of youth, came.
ona je mene zvala da je došla
The music director was not coming, and she asked me to come to play the music. I didn't know much about Medjugorje. She didn't even mention that we're mentioning about Medjugorje, but Gabelapoje, which is a place close to Medjugorje, where people are with a great heart,
na službi 3 godine.
where I was serving for 3 years as a religious.
I mislila sam, ajde, hvala Bogu, ne idem.
And I thought, oh, thank God, we're not going to Medjugorje, we're going to Gabelapoje. I don't even know where that is.
No, međutim, evo, mi smo se našli u Medjugorju
But we found ourselves in Medjugorje 2007. All night you're in a bus, you come in the morning at 6 o'clock,
smotan, umoran.
tired.
Kaže sestra prvo.
And sister said, first of all, we will climb a hill. We climbed Cross Mountain. What Cross Mountain? Okay. Then play between the stations. Came down from that hill. Let's go to the church.
Konačno to Gabelapoje.
Okay, now we'll finally go to Gabelapoje. He says, oh, youth, it's a shame that we don't climb another hill. What hill? The hill of apparitions.
Ja reku, majko mila,
Oh, my dear mother,
sam znala da će
if I knew this would be like this,
jel bi došla?
I don't even know whether I would have come.
Ajde, dobro. Treba
I said, okay,
idem, Bože.
they need me to play, I'll go, dear God.
Sam već
Okay.
bila umorna i ljuta.
I was a little bit tired and angry, but as we climbed,
Gospodin smirio.
more and more the Lord calmed my heart.
Ono, sjećam se kad smo došli na to.
And I remember when we came to the Hill of Apparitions by Our Lady,
Hvala fratrima što su stavili.
thanks be to the Franciscans that came, that sign, silence,
Jedino što sam imala
because the only thing that I needed at that moment is silence.
tu pred Marijom.
It is there before Mary on the Hill of Apparitions.
Ono u životu
You know, when everything in your life that is tormenting you, that's in your head, that burdens you, when everything comes down,
imaš
and when simply you have the opportunity
najvažnije.
to hear what is the most important.
Čula sam Isusov glas.
I heard Jesus' voice.
Pođi za mnom.
Do you want to follow me?
I sve drugo što je bilo u mom srcu.
And simply at that very moment, everything else in my heart was unimportant.
Rekla svoj da.
And this is where I gave my yes.
Zato evo nekako je moje srce.
That is why my heart
Medjugorje ovdje zapravo
is special.
znači da mi je Marija
Because here in Medjugorje, I feel that Mary helped me, the presence of Mary helped me to come to Jesus. And this is what Mary does.
Evo, danas sam redovnica
Today I'm a religious.
10.
From 2010,
mladima.
I work with the youth.
Ovdje pozdravljam sve mlade s
And I greet all of the youth that I've come with from Kirk.
ekipa iz Požege i
We're also from Požega, from Medjugorje.
Pozdravljam sve vas.
I greet all of you.
Zahvaljujem vam što se
I thank you for coming.
blagoslov
I wish you God's blessing in your life.
I zaista vas evo potičem s čim
And I
god da
inspire
ste
you.
došli, šta god da vas muči,
Whatever is tormenting you, with whatever you've come,
maknite svoj fokus sa toga,
remove your focus from that
stavite svoj fokus i
and place your focus and gaze on Jesus.
je rekla Boga u svim
Our Blessed Mother Teresa said, look at God in everyone, see God in everyone, serve Him in everyone, love Him in everyone. I try to do this every day,
nekako
and I desire to recommend this to you.
imamo fokus
Because when we remove the focus from that what torments us and put it on Jesus, then everything solves by itself. Thank you and God bless you.
Hvala sestri Dijani.
We thank Sister Dijana for her witness,